Blog Talk Radio.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars. And it's been said if we lose that war, and in so doing lose this way of freedom of ours, history will record with the greatest astonishment that those who had the most to lose did the least to prevent its happening.
We, the people, tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. Our Constitution is a document in which we, the people, tell the government what it is allowed to do. The man is not free unless government is limited. And informed patriotism is what we want. But still watch closely. And don't be afraid to see what you see.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. For as a wise man once said, an error doesn't become a mistake until you refuse to correct it.
When in hell are all you people going to wake up?
Moretti Underground, the Liberty Report.
I love that. Moretti Underground, the Liberty Report. Uva, uva. Hey, everybody. Hello, America. Welcome to the Monday, March 3rd, 2014 edition of Moretti Underground, the Liberty Report. Brought to you live right here at PRN Radio Network, the exclusive home of the Watchmen of America program. Hey, Watchmen. Good to see you all. My name's Joanne Moretti, and my great co-host, JoJo Norton, is here with me, too. And we appreciate you tuning in with us. Thank you. Our call-in number, as always, is 714-888-7404. And, of course, our chat rooms, both at Blog Talk Radio and right here at PRN, are open for you. Our amazing and super bright research colleagues, Lynn and AstroTurf, and maybe even famous Anna, are in the chats putting documents, resources, source links, and all that into our chats as a courtesy. So thank you, ladies. They're amazing researchers. What do you see the show we got lined up for you tonight? We've been researching all week. Today we do have a great show lined up, by the way, and we've invited commentator, journalist Gary Goforth. You all might know him from NRUN LV. He's going to be on our show to discuss the events in the Ukraine with us and a whole bunch of stuff that he wants to bring to our attention. After that, we're going to do more news and analysis and some investigative reports that we put. We've been really busy collecting data, by the way, and researching all the events. But before we get to start the show, we must do the disclaimer. That just tells the FCC, the feds, and anyone else who may be interested, anything that's said on this show is solely my responsibility and not that of PRN and the Watchmen of America. It goes like this. The comments made by hosts and or guest hosts or phone callers of the PRN radio network do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints, ideology, beliefs, or anything else of members of the Watchmen of America program or the Patriot Resistance website, either in past, present, or even future broadcasts. All right, well, now that that's out of the way, let me open up JoJo's microphone, and we'll get this party started. Let me get her microphone open here. Hey, JoJo. Welcome.
Hey.
Hey, what's going on?
Oh, nothing. Just getting ready for the show. Boy, I've read so much the last 2 days, my brain's like going in a circle or something.
I hear you. I'm frazzled.
It's hard to focus. It's just hard to focus because there's so much. There's so many different opinions. There's so many people that think that their opinion is the one that's right. And, I mean, I'm trying to look at everything from all sides because I'm learning as we go, just as we all are.
Yeah.
And boy, our team has really dug into some stuff.
Oh, you're not kidding. We got the greatest research team in the world. Wait till these folks see all the stuff we've put together. I got to tell you, I'm so proud of us.
Yeah.
Not just me and you either. Our whole team, man. They rock. Hey, before we go any further, go ahead.
I said, there's no way you and I can do this ourselves.
No. We have an extensive team. We got the brightest researchers in the world. Of course, I'm a little biased, but that's true.
Well,
before we go anywhere.
You're saying before we go any further, and I'm trying to say, if you go ahead, then I'll say what I got to say. Go ahead.
All right. Well, I just wanted to give a shout-out to my granddaughter, Maddie. She's not feeling very well, and I just hope she feels better and let her know that I'm thinking about her. Okay, go ahead.
All right, tell her Aunt JoJo says, hey.
Hey, yeah, she's not feeling well today, so she's going to be all right. Hey, we got some...
Our tech support guy and I have been talking off and on for not long, a few days, about doing a YouTube channel. So today, the weather was crummy, and I thought, well, I'm not going to do anything. I'll do it today. So I tried. Of course, me and my high-tech self couldn't get the picture downloaded to make the YouTube channel. So Scott and I were chit-chatting on the phone and everything, and lo and behold, he came through for us. I just love that guy. He is so helpful. So Scott has set up a YouTube channel. It's called Moretti Underground. He hasn't uploaded anything yet. He will after tonight's show or in the morning or something.
Yeah, I got to get some of the archives to him.
Well, he said he was just going to start with tonight's show.
Oh, okay.
Tomorrow or tonight, or start from this one, because he's got to do something with MP3 files or something. I don't understand. That's why he had to take over, because I didn't know how to do all that. So anyway, so go to YouTube, type Moretti Underground in the search bar. You can subscribe, and then when we get stuff loaded, it'll show up. And a lot of people are really excited about it, which is good. And then I want to say one more thing for you. About 2.5 years ago, on this show, there was a guy that he had a viral on YouTube from a newscast about FEMA camps. It was about the clergy at FEMA camps. I don't know if y'all remember that, but a lot of people were upset because the government had enlisted these clergy to help them, if I can remember correctly, have the clergy help them encourage people if there was a national disaster to do X, Y, and Z. So y'all at the time had wanted me to interview the guy. Well, I haven't talked to him in a couple of years, and I saw him today at a house fire, and I got his card, so I'm going to call him later. I'm going to re-interview him and ask him if he still feels the same way, because I believe they made that in about 2005. So hopefully I'll get some news on that.
Okay, cool. All right, you ready for some breaking news while we wait for our guest to call in?
Yep.
I don't know what area code they're calling from, and if he's on our switchboard, press 1 so I know which one is him, because there's a few people on the board.
No.
Hey,
he may call Skype. Call in Skype. Will you be able to tell?
Yeah. Hey, we got some breaking news out of Phoenix. 2 officers were shot. They were undercover officers, and the suspect made them. That means, he figured it out. At first, they were both critical and in surgery, but one of them has subsequently died. The suspect is also dead. My Fox Phoenix says, Phoenix police are investigating an officer-involved shooting that happened near 43rd Avenue and Bethany Home Road. Authorities say 2 officers have been shot. At this point, it's an ongoing investigation, and it is a developing story, but I've been trying to keep up on it. And so, Godspeed, officer, and let's just say a prayer that the second one survives. The first one, the one that died, he didn't survive surgery. Also, like I said, the suspect is dead. Also breaking, that girl Justina, the little girl in Massachusetts who was taken from her family, and they've been holding her hostage at Boston Children's Hospital. Well, we got a breaking story that says that Justina is going to go back to Tufts University. So a judge did say that. Also, there's legislators meeting with Mr. Pelletier, the father, on Thursday. Fox says the ailing teenager at the center of an interstate custody battle is going back under the care of Tufts Medical Center, where she was being treated until another Boston hospital made a different diagnosis and urged child protection officials to take her away from her family. The development in the case of Justina Pelletier, she's 15, came at an attorney-only hearing in Boston, where a contempt of court order against her father was also lifted. Remember, he violated the gag order. He was on Kelly file. Anyhow, Massachusetts Department of Children and Families decided to take his daughter, who's from Connecticut, and was only in the Bay State to get medical treatment. Imagine that, going from Connecticut to Boston, rush this kid to one of the finest hospitals in the world. Her Tufts doctor said, bring her over to Children's because he was going to be over there. When she got there, they never even contacted her own doctor. They had some doctor who had only been a doctor and was in residency. He was only graduated out of medical school for 7 months. And then they brought it to the attention of the Boston Children's Hospital Social Services, that officer, and they had a team meeting. Well, it turns out that she is connected not only to the Boston Children's Hospital, but to Mass General Hospital, and she's also connected with DCF, so she has a conflict of interest there. And now that all these legislators and everybody around the country and everybody on Twitter, they even have a whole hashtag for her, has gotten involved, it's putting some real pressure on Deval Patrick. He's the governor of Massachusetts, Obama's mini-me. Yeah, he wants to run for president. Well, he's running from this case right now. He was in Costa Rica last week on vacation, so he was obviously incommunicado. But they don't even have a lieutenant governor up there. The lieutenant governor resigned, and they haven't replaced it yet. So anyhow, I guess everybody was home alone in Massachusetts.
If he doesn't have a lieutenant governor, he's not supposed to leave the state. There's nobody leaving charge. That's a law.
Obviously he did. And then he's going to Connecticut tomorrow with Obama.
Oh.
But remember,
who was it? That guy from South Carolina got in trouble for that when he went to meet his lady in South America somewhere. Remember? Yeah.
Oh
okay.
yeah, I remember. Yeah, he got fired. He got fired for that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, it doesn't look like anybody's making a big deal out of him being gone, so maybe they're not upset that he left. But he's back now, and he's going to Connecticut tomorrow with Obama. But remember, there was a case. There was a little girl. Her name was Haley Putra. And this was when Governor Romney was in. This little girl had been beaten by her adopted mother and stepfather into a coma. The adopted mother ended up committing suicide after she killed her own mother. And the stepfather went to jail, of course, for this vicious beating. The little girl was considered in a vegetative state, persistent vegetative state, and the Department of Children and Families in Massachusetts went to court and had her taken off life support. Well, the little girl had the audacity to breathe. This was only a week after the beating, too. So the little girl started breathing on her own. DCF went back into court and decided to remove her feeding tube. Well, finally, there was a huge outcry, and it made it to Mitt Romney's desk. Mitt Romney stepped in. He took the kid out of the care of the DCF. He put her into Franciscan Hospital for Children over in Jamaica Plain, which is a section of Boston. And not only did the kid recover, but she recovered enough to act as a witness in the trial of her stepfather. So if Mitt Romney could do it when he was governor of Massachusetts, Deval Patrick can do likewise. Also, Mitt Romney shook up the Department of Children and Families, and Deval Patrick, you know what he said? He said, well, the woman that screwed it up, let her fix it. Who better to do it? Who better to fix the mistake than the one who made the mistake? Well, isn't that what Obama said?
I don't know. I don't listen to him too much.
Yeah, well, that's what Obama said about Lois Lerner and about Sebelius. She screwed up the website, so let her fix it. If she screwed it up, obviously she's not capable of fixing it, and that goes for this kid, too. All right. They got a snowstorm going on up there through the mid-Atlantic and heading up to the northeast. 6,500 flights were canceled. Also, the federal government had a snow day. Obama decided not to attend his presidential daily briefing this morning. Alston was all freaked out about it, and I don't blame him. That's the first time that president hasn't gotten a PDB since 1961. So then, of course, all the mouthpieces try to say, oh, yeah, well, it was a snowstorm. Okay, well, weak-minded people will buy that story. So, okay, there's a snowstorm. He can't get his briefing. So if the Russians were in Rhode Island, we wouldn't know about it until spring thaw. Is that what the deal is? Baloney.
Yeah, but this isn't the first one he's missed. He's missed quite a few from what I understand.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. They can do daily briefings. Over 60 people receive those briefings. They don't care if they got to slip it under his door. He gets those briefings. We have telephones and telegraphs, and we have telecommunications, all kinds of stuff. The guy's even got a BlackBerry. Plus, underneath D.C., and in between all those buildings, they have underground tunnels. So nobody even has to feel the weather. They're heated. You know, so, I mean, that was a cop-out. No, it wasn't due to a snow day. And if that's how we run our government, nobody's around, and you can't even get a presidential daily briefing because of snow, we're in trouble. It's not like they got feet of snow. They got inches. And it started with rain. There's no reason to call off a presidential briefing. Hey, it looks like our guest is here. Let me open up this microphone and find out. Is that you, Gary?
Okay. Yeah, are you there?
I'm here, Gary.
Hey, Gary.
Yeah, it's me, Joanne, and JoJo. Hey, how you doing? Ladies and gentlemen, this is Gary Goforth. I think you all know him from Enrun. How do you pronounce that, Gary? Enrun LV or?
Enrun Project.
Okay. Well, I'm sure you've all seen him on Twitter and Facebook, and very, very happy to have you as our guest today, Gary. Thank you for coming on. Man, what a mess. Unbelievable with this Ukraine and with Israel, and I'm glad you're on because you're pretty good at knowing all this stuff. Where would you like to start?
It's cool. You know, I'm having some confusion on this show, so I'm going to try to minimize that.
What kind of confusion?
Well, I'm hearing myself talk back to me.
Oh. Well, you'll have to turn the link off. You won't be able to listen and talk at the same time, or you'll have feedback.
Oh, you mean I can't chew gum and walk?
Yeah, that's it. You got it. Now you'll have to listen to the archives later.
Yeah, actually, the reason why I called was somebody told me that I could find a haircut and a shave at a pretty good price.
Yeah, real good price. Except the airfare might get you.
Do I have the right number?
Yeah.
Hey, Gary.
Yes.
What do you think about what's going on with Israel, first of all? Because I know I see a lot of your articles. I read them all. And you have a pretty good idea of what's going on now. Today, I saw an article that said that the U.S. is going to unveil the peace deal that they have laid out the framework for, whether or not Israel and the Palestinians agree to it. So it sounds more like it's more about Obama than it is either the Israelis or the Palestinians in that case. Why would they lay that out?
I didn't actually see that particular thing. I've been watching the Ukraine issues and whatnot, but as you know, I have been staying pretty close to the Israeli issue. I have no faith whatsoever in any kind of a peace thing, especially if it's being dictated from the United States, the West. That's been an all-out failure, and I almost believe that it's all by design, but, whatever they're saying, I almost want you to repeat what you said that they said.
Well,
did you do that?
Yes. John Kerry says that he's being encouraged to lay out the deal. Look here, let me read this. This is from Al Jemina. The White House is debating whether to unveil a framework, Israel-Palestinian Authority peace agreement, that will address final status issues without the consent of Jerusalem and Ramallah. The U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry is determined to present a proposal by no later than March 28th, the day when a fourth segmented release of the Palestinian Arab terrorists from Israeli prisons is scheduled to take place. According to a senior-level Israeli government official cited in the report, there is serious debate taking place within the White House over whether the framework agreement should be presented now at any price or whether to wait. The problem is that the American government has no plan B if both sides reject the proposal. So why would they unveil it?
Like it beats me, even the way they've worded it, it beats me in that it was a failure from the start. and what they're basically saying from the sounds of things is that they know it's going to fail. They're bound and determined by some kind of an agreement, a commitment that they made to unveil this thing one way or the other that no side wanted to hear, and they're going to do it with or without the consent of the other parties. So it sounds to me like it's just going to be, I don't know, what would you call it? Kind of a joke, but we may have some listeners today that may not appreciate some of the ways I put things. But, the bottom line is that there's nothing that they've said that has any meaning to it whatsoever, other than they're going to do this whether either side likes it or not. So what are they going to do? Start a war if nobody likes it?
Yeah, really. As a matter of fact, the Saudis and Israel have teamed up. They don't even want to deal with Obama anymore, and both of them hate Syria and Iran. And Obama, shot back, and he said that he's not going to protect them.
I mean, this whole mess, Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Syria, Iran, it's all intertwined, but in some way or another. But I'm kind of like Gary. Obama, everybody thinks he's stupid and embarrassing and all this. I think a whole lot of what's going on is by design. That's just my personal opinion.
Jojo, I agree with you. Nothing. They make them out to be bumbling idiots or a standby group. No, they're not. They are cold, calculating. They know exactly what they're doing. That's underestimating them severely when people are walking around, oh, yeah, he's inept and he doesn't know what he's doing and all those bumbling boobs around. He didn't show up for his daily briefing. He doesn't want a daily briefing. He has another plan, is what I'm thinking.
Well, he does have a plan in place, and that is to stand aside and let his bosses do what they're going to do. And every once in a while, he'll surface between golf games or something and make a few comments and then disappear like he did yesterday. Or was
you're going to run around the house, run around the White House like a child with Joe Biden taking selfie videos while Russia's invading countries and Israel's in an uproar. And Gary, my friend and I were talking today, and she had a really good peace plan. She said, you know what? Why don't, instead of making any changes to Israel whatsoever, we change the Palestinian territory, give it back to Jordan, and let Jordan handle them. And I told her that Jordan doesn't want those people. They were exiled from Jordan for a reason. And she said, well, Israel and Jordan, they do have a working relationship, so, let them take it back and let Israel just walk away.
Well, I won't get into it for the sake of sounding like I'm some sort of a Bible thumper or something like that, but bottom line is that everything that's happening right now is a sign of the times. And the times are that all these things are going to be taking place. Some of it doesn't have to necessarily make sense, but it's happening for a reason. Part of it is that it's all going to come to a head in Israel. My concern right now is that the Ukraine thing is nothing more than a distraction by design to keep Russia a little bit off base. As you know, the United States have been pushing hard for a war in Syria. They have been since, last summer. And they came close to it with this alleged chemical weapons attack. And I say alleged, it actually happened. But the question is who did it,
Exactly.
And so most of the world pretty well has an idea of who did it, even down to the United Nations, who wouldn't necessarily say who didn't do it. They just basically didn't say. They just said it happened.
Right.
So we all know it happened, and a lot of innocent people died. I consider that as being a false flag to incite, an action that nearly led to World War III.
Right.
That didn't happen because Russia stepped in. And Russia and China both have abstained on just about every issue or blocked every issue that the West has tried to do through the United Nations Security Council, all the way down to Libya. If you remember, they stayed out of it, and they didn't support it whatsoever. They know what's up. And go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Gary. Turkey's starting to play into this a little, too. I read an article about the Tatars, T-A-T-A-R, Tatar.
Tartars, yeah.
Yeah, I knew I'd say it wrong because I want to say tater because I'm Southern. But anyway, they're playing into this, too. So that's going to be another faction that's probably going to, within 72 hours or so, will probably stir the pot a little bit, too.
Well, Turkey has been in the background now for a few weeks, maybe a few months. I'm losing track of time. But Turkey is rising to the occasion, you know, and one, they're getting in bed with Hezbollah. They've reinstated their relations with Iran for a common interest, as they word it. And they're all determined to wipe out Israel.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that they're positioning right now to do exactly that. The Syrian issue is kind of in the middle of it and in the way. And so there's a lot of things that are going on to try to trigger something. And it's hard to determine who's doing what because everybody has their own individual interests in it. Some religion, some political. Part of it is the West wants to have control. The other side is China and Russia wants that the West doesn't have control. Everybody knows the Middle East is rich with assets, you know, particularly resources and strategic as far as location in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a hot spot, always will be. Sometimes I wonder who is on whose side and why. But I know that consistently, as we're seeing right now, Russia is obviously not on the side of the West. Neither is most of the Middle East, and we're seeing things unfold right now. So, as I'm looking at it as current events, is I almost see the whole Ukrainian thing as a distraction to take Russia out of play, or at least keep their eyes off the ball, while the West does what they've been trying to do for a long time in Syria. In the long run, the big play is that they all want control of the Middle East for different reasons, but you know, mostly I think it's for strategic reasons as well as the assets or the resources. So, who has control? Who ends up with control of the Middle East? Basically, ends up in control of pretty much humanity. That's the way they see it. And some people question, well, why does Russia do what they do, and why does the West do what they do, and you know, and so on and so forth. Well, the reason why there's an opposition, a very hard line opposition between the two, is that one doesn't want the other to have control. And all the other reasons, the geopolitical reasons, all the blah, blah, and everything else we read and misunderstand a lot because we're getting fed by the media, and it depends on what media you listen to, is how you're going to perceive what's going on. And I see that we're sadly mistaken in a lot of the ways that we see what's going on with Russia. But Russia's basically trying to stop the West from having control of the Middle East. They see it as one thing, and the Middle East, the West sees it as another. But bottom line is the way Russia sees the West is a neo-Nazi kind of New World Order, want to control, you know, the world, and not in the best interest of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, and we can see this in patterns of all the things of the corporate the cultures having corruption and everything else, and everything seems to be leaning toward, you know, a mentality that just leaves people, you know, on the sidelines.
Yeah, well, Gary, I got to tell you, Okay, go ahead. Let me go ahead, and then I'll tell you, because I think that Putin might not be wrong. I was thinking that the New World Order, like this big boogeyman's going to come and get us, and we got to fight them. Just dawned on me, we are the New World Order. Our regime is, anyhow.
Mm-hmm. Well, if that just dawned on you, I'm glad that it did, because it needs to dawn on everybody. If you read the global media like I do, and I do that not necessarily looking for something to agree with, but trying to get an understanding from various perspectives as to what's going on. And I know that Western media is going to tell you what they want you to know. It can be very deceptive and very convincing at the same time, especially when we want to think that we're on the good side. But when you look at things from different perspectives, and I mean everything from a Muslim perspective to the Jewish perspective to the the liberal perspective to whatever, everybody seems to have a consensus that the bad guy is the West.
Yeah.
And
hey, Gary.
It's not yes.
Before we go any further, we have a couple of phone calls. Two people called in, and do you want to take a couple of quick calls before we go any further?
Well, see if I can do it. Let's try and answer some questions.
Sure. Hold on one second, and let me open up this microphone first. Area code 954. You're live.
Hello. This is Tony.
Hey, Tony.
Yes, I want to talk about the entire New World Order thing. I think that what do you think about the reptile thing? Because I'm sure.
I'm sorry there, Tony, but no, we're not going to go there. Let me open up this other microphone. How's that? Sorry about that.
Thank you.
I don't want to deal with that right now. Okay.
No, I might have said the same thing, so that's cool.
Well,
hold on, Rita, you're live.
Yeah. This is Filippo. I'm down here in Fort Lauderdale, and I want to talk about the entire issue.
No, never mind. It was the same person. Sorry about that, Gary. Continue what we were talking about.
Yeah, we might get some strange calls and
yeah, next time I'll screen the calls while you're talking. Yeah, okay, that's fine. It happens on just about any opportunity for people to talk together on the radio and things like that. Going back to this whole New World Order concept, though, and I know people are listening and thinking about it, stuff like that. When you say New World Order, people's eyes glaze over. They're like, oh, God, another conspiracy nut. Well, I and my crew, too, we've been searching all weekend, and we can prove that what is going on over there in the Ukraine is a completely orchestrated by the globalists, and we can name who the globalists happen to be, too. I got a whole bunch of research in front of me, just waiting to get to it. Go ahead, Gary. Well, the globalists, I kind of, I don't care if you mention names and so on and so forth. The one common name is always Soros, but, he's actually the front man for a bigger picture. And the bottom line is that there is a force or a group of people who we call the New World Order who does want to be in control. And they have an agenda. And there's all kinds of labels for the agendas and things like that. But we have to know or understand, and probably it's best for people to do their own research so they can get their mind around it and understand what it is that we're talking about, besides just listening or looking at memes, on Facebook. Right. By the way, I hate those things. Sometimes I like the cute ones. But, sometimes people, I see people take some of that stuff too seriously, and there's just no merit to it whatsoever. So people need to really do some research and understand what's going on, because you may not be around, I may not be around, none of us may be around to be able to answer questions later. People need to learn how to think for themselves. And I see people are waking up right now and beginning to, and many people have even come to me and said, where do I start, And that's what we need to focus on, is try to help people understand, how to be able to see the forest for the trees.
You know, right now we see all this stuff in our face, and it's confusing. We don't know what's what. We need to start to learn how to sort through that. And there's ways to do that. But we first off have to know that everything we hear and see isn't necessarily true.
That's the hard part. When I started 4 or 5 years ago, you know, the first 6, 7, 8 months, you know, I would see all this stuff and I would read it and I would believe it. And then over time, though, you learn, the more you do this, the more you learn who's FOS and who's not, and who you can believe, and who's trustworthy, and who's credible and who's not. And, I mean, that takes time. That's just, you can't learn that overnight.
You can't learn it overnight, but there's a little common thread in all of it that I use, and that is common sense.
Yep.
You know, if 2 plus 2 isn't 4, then there's something that's not right. And if I find something that kind of makes sense, but it doesn't come down to 4, you know, in the equation, I do a little more research because I'll give it the benefit of the doubt, but I'm not going to accept it until I know more. And you and I, all of us have gotten to that point, but there's a lot of people out there that still are just not even sure what to do.
Yeah. Well, that's very true. And, I mean, that's why I guess a lot of people listen to a lot of these radio hosts, people like me and Joanne and others that are trying to do the work, you know. I mean, God knows we got a heck of a team digging up stuff all day long, every day.
Right.
Well, we have an awesome responsibility. I take it on as a responsibility that whatever I do, and I'm sure you feel the same way because I notice some of the things that you guys post and things like that, that whatever we do, it isn't about us. It's about them, whoever is reading our stuff. We have an obligation or a duty to make sure that they're getting the right information. A good journalist will do that, or at least they used to. Excuse me. But that's what's important because I know people are depending on what we tell them. And I can tell by the way they do respond to some of these things that are just totally, you know, ridiculous, that they will believe anything they hear. So, I mean, sure, or if we wanted to, we could feed them anything. But it's important that we give them the right information and teach people how to determine for themselves. Because, like I say, we may not be around very long. And you know, I know these people out there are good people, and they have families, they have children, and there's a lot of people depending on these little things, and a lot of which we're helping them out with. So, you know, I just take it maybe too serious, but I think it's pretty serious times right now.
Yeah, we're in very serious times, as a matter of fact. So where do you think? Where do you see this going, Gary? What do you think we should be expecting?
Well, you know, I see things building into a thing that's almost by design. You know, it is by design, but the way I see it is that this whole issue in the Middle East is going to come together. There is going to be a war in the Middle East. I know at the same time that the wannabes are trying to do something with the economy, the global economy. And they're trying to merge everything into a one world order. So in that, I see that they would probably like to have the economy crash at about the same time as this global war takes place, which would be real convenient because everything will take care of itself in their way of looking at things. So I think we're going to have a war. I think you can see that there's a lot of push for war. Up before the Ukraine thing, there was a lot of sword rattling over Syria, and there still is. Everything was all about Syria and the peace talks, and, you know, and everything else till the Ukraine thing. And you can see by reading between the lines that the Ukraine thing has actually been in the works for a while. So it's almost like they're trying to coordinate everything in such a way where they want this war to happen. And I know that the economy is so shaky as it is that it would take very little, and a war would be just enough to do it. to crash everything.
Let me throw out another 2-cent opinion. This is an opinion. I really can't, formulate a fact-finding mission on it, but it's my feelings are part of this whole thing. As we all know, it's probably been planned at least 2 or 3 years, if not more, that maybe this is part of getting rid of the dollar and resetting the currency. Maybe right. I just feel like this is all playing into that one way or another.
Well, that's essentially what I'm saying. There's going to just be a big one reset. If they can pull it off, and one of the things that's keeping that from happening is Russia and China. And so they would love nothing more than to be able to get rid of Russia, in the process. But that's easier said than done. They control, economies and population, that is the majority of the world. So, and they're powerful, on top of that. So
they are.
This whole big grandiose plan, it almost sounds like something out of a super criminal movie, Superman thing or something like that. But like this grand plan to dominate the world and have control, and you hear about depopulation and all these other crazy things that there may be some truth to. But this grand plan can only go as the dominoes fall properly, or the way that they need to. And invariably it seems like Russia and China are always blocking that. And of course over here in the United States we've got all these people, the patriots that are fighting a lot of issues here politically and everything else, like gun control and whatever. And it just it's easier said than done for the wannabe New World Order. But if they could pull off, something significant enough, like a global war, and as well as I do, one nuke anywhere in the world goes off, that'll stop everything. It's just the way people are. The economies will crash. Everything will go, all at once. And then when the dust settles, it depends on who's still standing, that gets control. So I think they're almost willing to take that risk, but all the pieces are just not quite right yet, and so that's why this thing goes to a head, and then it kind of backs off a little bit, then it goes to a head again, and it backs off a little bit. Some of it's psychological, some of it's a desensitization. I can't say it right, but you know what I'm saying. Desensitization. And some of it is just by virtue of the fact that they don't have all the ducks in a row yet. So what people like us are doing by helping people become aware, and you even hear like people like Alex Jones, for example. If you spend any time listening to him, he has a lot of good things to say, and he looks at it like his mission is if nothing else, if enough people out there are aware, then it seems to kind of ebb the, or curb the tide a little bit. The momentum slows them down, and maybe we can even stop this, evil from happening.
Yeah, back to the U.S. dollar thing. There was an article put out November 13th, 2013 by the Washington Times, and it says, the title is Russian Lawmaker Wants to Outlaw U.S. Dollar, Calls It a Ponzi Scheme. Now, you have to remember this is 4 months ago. So, and it says if the U.S. national debt continues to grow, the collapse of the dollar will take place in 2017. Well, I think it's going to be before then, but anyway. The bill would partially revive a Soviet-era ban on the dollar. It would prohibit Russians from holding dollars in their country banks, and banks have been able to carry out transactions on the dollar. Now, see, that's why I kind of think this is all kind of feeding into it. That's back from November 2013.
Yeah, well, remember, that's what Gaddafi was doing. He wanted to use his own dinars to trade in oil, and they were backed by a gold, so he had a gold reserve dinar. And we had a treaty with them, remember? If they gave up their nuclear ambitions, we were supposed to not do a regime change. Well, we see how that went after he started trying to use his own dinars. And if you're saying that Russia's trying to get rid of the dollar as the petrodollar, well, that makes sense. They're going to pull the same thing on him that they pulled on Gaddafi, but Putin was too smart for them.
Don't you remember 2 years ago we started looking at all these countries? Every country we invaded was not part of the central bank. Egypt,
right.
Libya, Syria,
right.
Iran. There's a fifth one out there somewhere.
Yeah.
So
really?
it was all kind of playing into the central banking thing.
Well, the bankers are, one of my underscores, behind all this stuff. They're the people, that are basically pulling the strings. And they're
that
the ones
explains
who
the
control the
billionaires'
government.
involvement.
Yeah, the thing is that they're getting up against nuclear powers that are totally against what they're doing. And, of course, Russia and China and several other nations are working together, BRICS, as you know, to form their own currencies and own alliances and everything in opposition to everything that the wannabe New World Order, EU, and everybody wants to do. And it's a real problem because some of these guys do have nuclear, capabilities. India, for example, and others, and they're not willing to play along with the West. So the West has to overcome, these things, and so somehow they've got to trigger something that's going to kind of make everything just fall apart, and then hope, I think, to come out standing, when it's over. And I just don't think they've quite done it yet, but one of these moments, and things are so fluid, like you said, something that took place 3 months ago, it's almost like years ago now. Things are so fluid that, this Ukraine thing could explode into something that just goes amok. Anything in and around Syria and Israel could go amok in a blink of an eye. And so there's some wild cards out there that none of us can really predict. I joke around about what's his name, Charles Crotchhammer, or something like that. Anyway, I call him the Pope of Pundits. But all these guys, nobody knows what's going to happen next. You can have a pretty good idea, but it's so dangerous and slippery out there right now that any one thing or several things at one time can take everything out of control. So I don't look at that as a negative thing. I just look at it as reality. And it's best that we look at it that way instead of hopes that maybe some politician is going to solve the problems in 2016. I don't think we're going to make it that long to rate things going, to be honest with you.
I agree, too. That I
absolutely
agree with.
It doesn't change really drastically, and it's not going to change in the direction that we're going. So we're going to have to change our way of thinking maybe and approach on this.
Right.
That's going to be hard to do when we have the multitudes, whatever the percentage is, of dumbed down people in this country that shouldn't even be voting.
Jojo, I blame our media because if you see today a huge meeting between Bibi Netanyahu and Obama, and this is for like all the marbles in the Middle East, not a word. So obviously it didn't go well for Obama, or the media would be blaring headlines. Obama pushes Bibi into a corner and Bibi backs down. That didn't happen.
No,
that didn't happen. Not even a word.
The only thing that media wants to report is the stupid Oscars from last night. Like, that is the most important thing in the world right now. And that is what the majority of the citizens want to hear, obviously.
The Oscars. A whole bunch of people who go through life pretending to be other people, patting themselves on the back, and that's more important. Oh, goodness. Hey, Gary.
I'm surprised that with the world burning the way it is, that they didn't have a party last night, for all the Oscars. The Obama's at the White House or something.
One for another vacation.
One MSNBC host said, you should thank Obama for those Oscars because he brought diversity and culture into
Of course, America never had any Yeah, we never had any diversity or culture until he showed up on the planet.
Hell, before Biden and Obama were running through the house, we didn't even know we should drink water. How the heck did humanity survive?
Exactly. Oh, God. I can't believe, looking back, how dumb I've been in my entire life. I just had no clue, until Obama came. But now that I see the light,
Yep. You see the light, you should exercise and drink plenty of water.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't like to bash Obama because, it becomes a distraction more than anything else. Personally, I think it's a waste of time.
Well, he's as much as in charge of the United States as that chick Flo is in charge of Progressive Insurance. Both of them are just the spokesmodel.
You know what? I saw you say that the other day, and I got such a kick out of it. That is so true. That is true. But he is the president of the United States, and that's, I don't know what else to say.
Yeah. Hey, Randy,
I'm not
Gary,
we
got to move this along. Do you have any final comments for our listeners before we head into break?
No, I'm afraid I don't. I'm just kind of here. I was looking for a haircut and a shave.
Well, you came to the right place.
I'll email you one. Tell everybody where your blog spot is, and so they can go read your stuff, because I was up all night one night reading all your articles, and they were very good references.
Well, that all started back in about 2005, so there's a lot of stuff, and it's called the End Run Project, and it's easiest to find just end run, like the football play end run project. Google that, and you'll find anything you want to know about the End Run Project and articles and how to get there and all that kind of stuff.
And he's on Twitter, too, under that.
Oh, End Run LV is on Twitter, and the End Run Project is also on Twitter. It's two different accounts. But the End Run Project, if you just Google that, you'll find anything and everything that you really need to know as far as how to find me or how to find anything to do with the articles or background or things like that.
Well, I want to thank you for calling in. We've been chit-chatting on Instant Message, and I've learned quite a bit from you, and I appreciate you calling in.
And I do,
I
too,
appreciate
Gary.
the opportunity. I really enjoyed talking to you guys. I finally get to hear you, and look forward to more in the future.
All right, wonderful.
All right.
Thank you very, very much. And we'll be in touch with you right after the show. Thank you again.
God bless you guys.
The link to today's show, each show has their own link. So it archives at the same link. So just hang on to this link, and you can pass it around with your friends and stuff. And, again, I want to thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Gary Goforth from the End Run LV Project. Thank you, my friend.
God bless everybody.
God bless you, too. All right. Now, let's take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to rock some serious research that we've been doing over the weekend. I got to tell you, there is a lot of stuff here that it's going to blow your mind. We'll be right back. All right, everybody, we're back. You're listening to Moretti Underground, the Liberty Report, right here at PRN Radio Network, the exclusive home of the Watchmen of America program. Hey, Watchmen, how you doing? I love those guys. I'm Joanne Moretti, and JoJo Norton, my great co-host, is here with me, too. We were just talking to our great guest, Gary Goforth. And now we want to get to some more news. We're going to kind of do a lightning round, but this is going to be a little bit of in-depth. We're talking about the Ukraine. JoJo, anything you want to bring up before we go? Because, it's probably all in here.
Well, do we want to go ahead and just throw in this big oil refinery that's on fire that just started about an hour or so ago?
Oh, yeah, the biggest oil refinery in Europe is on fire.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Well, that was just it. There's not a whole lot of breaking news on it right now, other than it's a huge oil refinery, and it's on fire. Imagine that. I bet it wasn't the next. I'm trying to find the link.
I have it. The name of the place is NEFT KAMSKNEFTEHIM. Okay? I have no idea how to pronounce that. Neftekhim. Anyhow, it's the largest European oil refinery, and it's in Tatarstan, Russia. And at 7 p.m. Moscow time, tens of firemen were urgently summoned as the oil giant caught on fire. There's all kinds of photos and videos and stuff, too. The link is on my page. Lynn probably put it in the... Yep, there she did. She already has it in the chat room. Good for her. Thank you, Lynn.
She's fast.
Yeah, she is. Fast fingers right there. Let's talk about the Ukraine for a little while, because this situation is not as it seems. Now, the United States media will tell you that Putin's a bad guy and he's violating human rights and sovereignty and all kinds of stuff. Well, let me tell you something. That could be true. However, Russia, the people that are involved in this, the community agitators that are involved in this Ukrainian situation, they thought they were pulling the wool over Putin's eyes while the Sochi Olympics were going on. They never, ever dreamed that he probably knew about it and was well prepared. People were mentioning all the extra artillery and armor and hardware and everything else that he had protecting those Sochi Olympics. They said that he left nothing to chance. Let me tell you something. He probably didn't even need all that equipment for the Olympics. But he was smart enough to have them on the ready should something happen. So I'm figuring that, because Putin was the head of the KGB, nothing gets past that man. Now, Putin has all kinds of gas lines running through the Ukraine. And do you really think that this new government that just overthrew the Ukrainian president is going to look out for Russia's best interests? Let's talk a little bit about who this new government is. The new government is actually the old government. There was something called the Orange Revolution. Soros set up a foundation specifically for the Orange Revolution. It was called the Renaissance Foundation. The woman that just got out of jail, Yulia Tymoshenko, she was on Soros's payroll, and she was part of that Orange Revolution. So was this new president. Now,
and that's the lady that is in a picture with Hillary Clinton, and Hillary Clinton's eyes look very strange in that picture. And that's that picture of those two ladies. Well, I'm going to use the word lady. That's been circulating all over the weekend. Is correct? The blonde with her hair tied up in a little bun, right?
Yes. Yep, that's Yulia Tymoshenko.
Okay.
Well, this Orange Revolution was completely set up by Soros. And so is this new government. There's an article, I'm sure Lynn will put it in the chat room, but it says that the new Ukrainian government has a lot of familiar faces. Yes, because they were holdovers from Soros's Orange Revolution. Now, if you remember, Odinga in Kenya, when Obama was running for president, remember he violated the Logan Act and he went down there campaigning for his cousin Odinga? That was also part of the Orange Revolution. They called themselves the ODM, Orange Democratic Movement, also supported by Soros, Tides, of course, Acorn International, who is involved in this Ukrainian thing too. You remember him, Wade Rathke. He was a Weather Underground with Bill Ayers, and he is Acorn International. Well, they've been doing this right along. They did it in Egypt. They did it in Tunisia, Libya. Soon Syria is going to fall. The next one up, as a matter of fact, is Indonesia, and we'll get to that. And then they're going to India. Now, you also have the Tides Foundation, which is run by Drummond Pike, who is also a Weather Underground. You have, of course, Soros's Open Society. And there's another billionaire. His name is Pierre Obadio. He is the founder of eBay. He, too, is involved in all of this. So when you're thinking that Putin is the bad guy, he is a bad guy. Do never underestimate Putin. The difference between Putin and Obama is Putin loves Russia. Obama doesn't love the United States. Putin will do whatever it takes to benefit Russia. he'll get rid of all of us if it's going to help Russia. So, don't start falling in love with him. He's ruthless. However, they're trying to pull the wool over this dude's eyes. Russia knows that once this whole Soros crew gets into the Ukrainian government, that he's screwed. You think they're going to rest with the Ukraine? No. They already have these NGOs that they're supporting inside Russia. They have them inside Israel, too, by the way. There's protests going on right now in Israel, supported by Soros. If you remember Occupy was run by the same people. They were the Tides and the Open Society and all of that. Now, these people don't want you to know this, but they're all in it together. So then you have Samantha Power. Samantha Power come out today. She was over at the UN. Do you know she's an Irish citizen? She's not even American, JoJo. She's married to Cass Sunstein. Yes, she's married to Cass Sunstein.
Doesn't being married to Cass Sunstein make her a dual citizen?
I don't know. I don't know if she's an American. She was an Irish citizen. But she's the ambassador to the UN. She was at the UN today saying how bad Putin was and how, he's violating sovereignty. Well, they have this thing called the Budapest Agreement, which is what they were touting around. There was an agreement made. Matter of fact, Bill Clinton signed it. And if the Ukraine gave up their nuclear ambitions, the United States was going to protect them. However, it's a resolution. It's not a treaty. Let me read you something here from the Blaze. The United States and Britain reaffirm their commitments to protect Ukraine borders in exchange for the nation giving up its nuclear weapons in a little-known agreement known as the Budapest Memorandum, signed by former President Bill Clinton in 1994. The Daily Mail notes reports, if Russia has invaded Ukraine, then it would be difficult for the U.S. and Britain to avoid going to war. Sir Tony Brenton, who served as a British ambassador from 2004 to 2008, said war is certainly on the table if it's determined that the Budapest Memorandum is legally binding. Also, according to the Daily Mail, Kiev has asked that the agreement be honored, and it claims its borders have been violated. If indeed this is a Russian invasion of Crimea, and if we do conclude the Budapest Memorandum is legally binding, then it's very difficult to avoid the conclusion that we're going to war with Russia, Brenton told BBC. Now listen to all this warmongering. Ukraine has accused Russia of a military invasion, though details are still coming in. The unsettling news comes after Obama warned Russia about military action in the Ukraine on Friday. But a closer look at the Budapest Memorandum shows the specifics might be more complex than some are assuming. Article 1 of the agreement states, the United States of America, the Russian Federation, and the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland reaffirm their commitment to Ukraine to respect the independence and sovereignty and the existing borders of the Ukraine. Reaffirming a commitment to Ukraine borders and being legally required to go to war are two very, very different ideas. There's surely going to be a lot of debate over whether the Budapest Memorandum is legally binding agreement. But that's all it is, folks. It's a memorandum. So don't get snookered into that. But if you see what's going on, these Soros puppets, these NGOs, which means non-government organization, are trying to get us to go to war. Do you really think we want to go to war with Putin, start World War III? And
I don't.
When you look at it, it's not just the Ukraine. They are operating all over Europe. You see, you know all these big protests you see, they're orchestrated. Maybe not the Venezuelan one, but that even that's possible. But they did it in Egypt. How many times have we talked about Egypt and how the foundations are all involved in the protests? They got all those kids trained and funded and gave them all kinds of technical equipment, got them out there stirring the pot, and overthrew Mubarak. That was when these organizations put in the Muslim Brotherhood. They had already been grooming them. Also, if you want to know the truth,
OFA. Don't forget what all stuff. The OFA. What does that stand for?
Organizing for America. They used to be Organizing for Obama.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Yeah, of course, they're all involved in it, and they have a huge metadata. Everybody that was registered to vote, that information went to OFA. That's how Obama collects his information. Remember what Maxine Waters told us. Obama has a database that knows everything about everyone. That's his OFA. But it's not just OFA. Like I said, it's Tides and the Soros Foundation and this Obadiah there from eBay. Now, there is, today, when they had that UN meeting, they were leaving the UN meeting, and the British guy had a whole bunch of documents in his hands.
Yep.
Well, a smart photographer took a picture of the photograph that the guy was just holding out there in the open. Turns out it's a document. It's a secret document. Breitbart put this out. Secret UK government document says there'll be no sanctions on Russia. Says a secret document photographed by the press outside number 10 Downing Street, the residence and office of the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, has revealed that the UK government will not yet be imposing sanctions on Russia following Putin's actions in Ukraine. The Guardian reports the picture of the document was taken by the freelance photographer Stephen Back, who specializes in spotting secret documents carried openly by officials entering Downing Street. The document was in the hands of an unnamed official attending a meeting of the National Security Council called by the Prime Minister to discuss the Ukrainian crisis. The document will further undermine the British and Western position in threatening Russia with economic sanctions as a result of what seems to be an impending annexation of Crimea. It says here, earlier today, the G7 issued a statement to Russia claiming that its actions were incompatible with membership of the G8 group. The group said, we call on Russia to address any ongoing security or human rights concerns that it has with the Ukraine. Anyhow, this document says that there's not going to be any backlash for Putin. So, they're not going to. Europe is broke. The United States is broke. The United States is not going to go after Putin unless they have a coalition.
We're sending, I can't put my finger on it, but we're sending a couple of billion today to Ukraine.
Right. And
I don't remember the exact amount, but
you know whose hands it's going to end up in? Soros and all these other NGOs and all these foreigners working there. Putin's not a stupid man. Putin knows damn well who these people are. And he went into
now China. Now look, China's done teamed up with Russia against the U.S. North Korea's playing like what they're playing like. They keep firing off missiles just to show everybody they can. And then, we got the China-Taiwan thing, and it could
Iran tried some new weapons
everywhere.
Launches, too. Nobody is afraid of Obama. And, these people, when they are doing all these protests and stuff, they'll throw some rocks and stuff, but they're not really fighting. And the governments that were overthrown, well, they were leaving anyhow, I'm pretty sure, or they were paid off, because you don't just, have a protest out front and then the whole government quits. That seems a little odd, too, doesn't it? Anyhow, Putin, for all it's worth, Putin might end up being the good guy in this. Now, remember, back when Obama was caught on open mic and he was saying he'll have more flexibility after the election. Well, we all thought he was capitulating to Putin and, he's just going to give him whatever he wants after the election. Well, I'm starting to rethink that, JoJo.
Well, let's go back to the START Treaty. Let's go all the way back to the START Treaty that Obama totally screwed up, and Russia took the treaty and ran with it and turned around and went, nah.
Right. Well, you're right. You're absolutely right. Also, don't forget, like K.Y. Raven is in the chat room saying Putin's crisis. Let me tell you, Putin has an operational bomb base in Havana. He has a base in Venezuela, Nicaragua. Iran also has bases in Venezuela and Nicaragua. The United States needs Putin to broker the deal with Syria. But remember we talked about these transnationals being dropped into Syria. They get picked up in Libya. Well, who do you think's funding them?
Oh, I'm sure we are.
Oh, I'm sure we are, but I'm sure that all the organizing is coming from Soros' open society. Now, Gary had said, everybody blames Soros. Well, I mean, this is the guy's life work. And what we are watching right now is the culmination of his life's work. He wants to see himself in charge of the world by the time, before he dies. So this is what's going on. Soros is behind it. Other billionaires are behind it. All these offshoot groups, like I said, Tides and whatever. I'm just telling you the big ones. But there's a whole bunch of them. There's a multiple of these little offshoot groups. And they're all involved in organizing, orchestrating, and other things. Now, we talked about Obadiah. Pando from Disclosed TV put out a really, really good article. It says, U.S. government has been caught funding the coup in the Ukraine. This is from Disclosed TV. Just hours after last weekend's ouster of Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych, one of Pierre Omidyar, newest hires, a national security blog, The Intercept, was already digging for the truth. Marcy Wheeler, who's the new site's senior policy analyst, speculated that the Ukraine revolution was likely a coup engineered by deep forces on behalf of Pax Americana. That's an NGO, and as this article goes on further, you'll see that they, too, are connected to Soros. It says there's quite a bit of evidence of a coup-ness. How many levels deep interference comes from both sides, and these are serious claims. Anyhow, Will is partly correct. Pando has confirmed that the American government, in the form of the U.S. Agency for International Development, which is USAID, played a major role in funding opposition groups prior to the revolution. Moreover, a large percentage of the rest of the funding to those same groups came from a U.S. billionaire who has previously worked closely with U.S. government agencies to further his own business interests. This was by no means a U.S.-backed coup, but clear evidence shows that the U.S. investment was a force multiplier for many of the groups involved in overthrowing Yanukovych. But that's not the shocking part. What's shocking is the name of the billionaire who co-invested with U.S. government, or as Wheeler put it, the Dark Deep Force, acting on behalf of PAC America. Wheeler's boss is Pierre Omidyar. Yep. In the annals of independent media, this might be the strangest twist ever. According to financial disclosures and reports seen by Pando, the founder and publisher of Glenn Greenwald's government-bashing blog, The Intercept, co-invested with the U.S. government to help fund regime change in the Ukraine. Imagine that, huh? Yep. Well, Omidyar's network gave $335,000 to New Citizen, which is one of the anti-Yankovich projects. According to the Kiev Post, Pierre Omidyar's network gave $500,000, and nearly $200,000 of it came from USAID. So here you go. And, as this article goes on further, it says how he's teamed up with Soros's Open Society and the Renaissance. So now you got a couple of billionaires working together with USAID. We did a report a long time ago about USAID and how much money, billions of dollars are missing out of there. Well, now we know where it's going, right?
Mhm. Well, the money thing, it circles a drain. And we've learned when we all started this 4 years ago, it's when you want to find out something, you just follow the money.
Right. And remember that Soros had been betting against the Ukraine, the Balkans, which is the Ukraine's part of it. So he knew this was coming. As a matter of fact, stocks fell because of the Ukraine tensions. Global stocks fell sharply Monday on rising tensions over Russia's military advance into the Ukraine and the threat of sanctions by Western governments. Standard & Poor's 500 index fell 16 points, 0.09%. The index headed for its biggest drop in a month, by the way. The Dow Jones Industrial fell 182 points. The NASDAQ dropped 43 points. And, of course, the Nikkei, last night just before I went to bed, they were already down 2%. But Obama, remember a couple of weeks ago, we told you they were getting out and they were converting to cash. Well, now we know. They were planning this.
Well, yeah, and Soros, he bought shorts, 3 weeks ago? Something like that?
Yeah.
Betting it all?
Yep, he was betting against the S&P, too. He was doing short puts.
Yeah. Well,
so there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Our crew has been working so diligently. You would not believe the documents and the files and the names and the of all the players that I can't even get into it as deep as I would like to, but we have a couple of research threads going on. One at Moretti Underground and one at our own my own page too, Joanne Moretti. And I put a lot of documents over at Ulsterman's page too. Now, just as we were on the air, Lynn sent me a message, and she says that the U.S. is suspending exercises and bilateral strategies and seaport visits and planning conferences. Yeah, that ought to get Putin shaking in his boots. What the problem is Putin busted them. Putin busted them overthrowing the Ukraine. So that's what's going on here. I don't care what the rest of the media tells you. Look at the documents, look at the background, and follow the money. This is not... This is a revolution, all right, but it's an orchestrated AstroTurf revolution, just like Egypt's first one was. And the money's, coming from billionaires, coming from USAID, coming from, all these radical Marxists. So that's what's going on. And Putin, that he's not going to get pushed around. He, like I said, he will light up the world. He'll turn us all into a parking lot before he will ever let Russia's interests be taken over by a bunch of liberal wusses. I mean, you have a protest and then they overthrow a government.
Well, they still feel like Crimea is theirs. I mean, they lost it in 1954 or something. I can't remember the whole history.
Right.
I'll be honest with all of y'all. I have read so much in the last 2 days that I can't remember what I've read. I mean, things keep popping into my brain that I've read, but I can't remember where to find them. But
and then you got John Kerry. John Kerry came out yesterday and said, "One does not invade a country under false pretext." Hello, John Kerry. Have you ever heard of a place called Libya? All right. We were supposed to have a no-fly zone in Libya, and we were bombing buildings. I have never seen a building fly. So that was a bunch of hooey. We made a deal with Libya that if they gave up their nuclear ambitions that we wouldn't invoke a regime change in Libya. Well, what part of a no-fly zone includes killing the president?
Well, he went and hid his gold. They wanted that gold, and they wanted him to be a member of the central bank, and he said no, and he got it. I don't know. There's so much that's behind the scenes of everything that's going on. It's hard to keep up.
Mhm.
Very.
All right, let's just keep an eye on this fake BS in the Ukraine. It's not Putin, not this time. And like I said, don't fall in love with Putin. But I'll tell you, right now, he is making the President of the United States look like the biggest dope and laughing stock in the world. Obama has no credibility in the world. I mean, Pajama Boy is more masculine than Obama right now. They're all laughing at him. You think that any one of these big leaders are going to listen to a word that Obama or Kerry or any one of them has to say now? They're not. They're laughing at him. No,
I wouldn't even have a meeting with them if I was them.
Really?
I would never in my life imagine that we would sit here and talk about people in charge of the great United States of America like this. But, I mean, I don't. Well, I know how it happened. They got elected. But if we can't change the mindset of the voters. I mean, if you're going to go vote, my God, at least take the time to look at the candidates, see what they stand for, do some homework. If you're not going to do that, call a friend that knows what's going on and get some advice or something, and or don't vote. I mean, it's just blows my mind.
Yeah, well, I got to tell you something about these world leaders, especially the Muslim world leaders. They may admire civility and business savvy, but they respect strength. Right now, Putin is the number one strong man in the world, and he's getting all kinds of major props. This is working for him. And people are looking more to Putin than they would ever even consider looking to that boob we have in office, Obama.
Carol Ray, she's been on our show many times. She's one of our greatest, wonderful researchers. She has, oh, my God, she has really worked her tail off the last couple of days. Let me read you something she just posted a minute ago.
Okay.
Carol Ray. The International Monetary Fund, or IMF, has sent in a delegation to Kyiv, or Kyiv, however you say it.
You're breaking up.
To consider some form of emergency financial assistance. The prospect of a default, coupled with not only the $15 billion in Russian aid, but also Moscow's refusal to cut national gas prices, will make necessary the need for even more financial assistance. While a Western loan will help only in the short run, the increased financial burdens imposed by Moscow will only create greater financial stress unless even more Western financial help is sent. And my computer jumped on me.
Yeah.
But, I mentioned that we had already sent some money, so I guess we'll be sending them money like a child support check every week.
Yeah, well, where the hell are we going to get this money? We can't even afford to give our military veterans benefits.
Mm-hmm.
That's a bunch of hooey, too. And you know who's going to get the money? We just went through all that.
Yeah, and remember the IMF. The IMF, we haven't actually mentioned that word so much in what we've told you, but it's all tied in there with that, too, IMF.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is the global.
The whole global money thing.
Yeah, it is. It's the globalists. Like I said, I thought that the New World Order was going to come and get us, but I realized that we are the New World Order, our regime, and we've already been overthrown.
Mm-hmm.
So,
sure have.
And if you don't believe it, look at who was in our regime. Look at Obama's czars. Look at every administrator of every federal agency. Look at the new Homeland Security guy, Jay Johnson. He is reviewing the rules of engagement for the Border Patrol because the ACLU said that they're too rough on the illegals crossing the border. So what are they supposed to be, Walmart greeters? Just hand them out water and a dry towel when they cross the border and give them a map on where the benefits are? That's another whole thing, too.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyhow,
we want to go ahead and take our second break, and then we can do our lightning round?
All right. Yep, we can do that. Let's, let me go back up here. We're going to take a quick short one, just a minute break. We'll do the Second Amendment commercial. We'll be right back. 1 minute.
All right.
All right, and we're back. You're listening to Moretti Underground, the Liberty Report, right here at PRN Radio Network. I'm Joanne Moretti. My great co-host, JoJo Norton, is here with me, too, and we're happy you stuck around. Thank you so much. All right, JoJo. You there?
All right. Yeah, I'm here.
All right, we're going to do a lightning round, like JoJo said, just before our break. Before we go any further into, I'm glad we just did that commercial, too, because we have some Second Amendment stuff coming up in Connecticut. Mm-hmm. First, before we get to that, though, Obama won the fight to deport the homeschool family, the German homeschool family.
Yes, I did.
Huey and Hannelore Romek came to the United States in 2008 seeking political asylum. They fled their German homeland in the face of religious persecution for homeschooling their kids. And they wanted to live here in the United States. And if they stayed in Germany, there was a possibility that their children would be taken away from them. So they came to the United States seeking asylum so that they could keep their children. Well, today the Supreme Court refused to hear the appeal. So the way it looks right now, they are not going to be able to stay in the United States. I think they'd be better off being illegals. All right. Obama and, of course, his little minions and mini-me's and stuff are going to Connecticut tomorrow. Connecticut is embroiled in a really, really bad Second Amendment situation. They are banning weapons. They're talking about how they're going to go door-to-door and confiscate America's weapons, the people from Connecticut's weapons. They've softened that a little bit now and said, well, we're not really going to go door-to-door, but if somebody who has one of these weapons makes a call and the police have to respond to the address, they will take the homeowner out, too, if they're found to be in possession of these banned weapons. So people are going to be afraid to call the cops, by the way. Also, the police chief in the state of Connecticut said that anybody who does not surrender their weapons is anti-American. Well, there's this dude. His name is Redneck. He has a show, too. But he had something to say about that. And I want you guys to listen up to this. It's not a very long little thing, but listen to what the man has to say.
And I'm sitting out here enjoying the beautiful sky and sunshine with my old friend Bonnie girl. What you doing, Bonnie? And she's a rare breed called a mountain cur. She just happened to come out white instead of brown. And we've been trying to keep the bloodline alive, and she now thinks she's a youngin'. So if you see her popping around in the background here, she's having fun this morning out here in the nice, clear weather. I was advised by a few of my friends that I should not make this video if I ever had any aspirations of running for president or anything like that, but I disagree, and I think this is exactly what a president should say. I'm going to share a story with y'all about something that happened to me when I was a young buck, thinking I knew everything, and we were hog hunting. Had a good pack of dogs, had all the armament we thought we needed. We'd run up on a boar hog that was pretty good in size, and he had some big old cutters on him. Well, I personally unloaded my weapon in this hog and then had to stand there and watch him kill 3 of the dogs and cut up 4 others. Then had to climb a tree myself to keep from getting cut up and killed. Do I blame the dogs? Do I blame the hog? No, I blame me. Because I wasn't thinking about what would happen when you back a vicious animal into a corner. He's coming out, and he's going to bring the most merciless onslaught you ever saw in your life. This is kind of what we got going on up in Connecticut right now. We got a governor that seems to think that he's going to go confiscate guns from legal gun owners. Well, the reports I've seen can put the estimates anywhere from around 350,000 legal gun owners that still possess these weapons. Not too good. You know, sometimes people have to sit down and reevaluate a situation. You know, just like with the hog, I have nobody to blame but myself. Governor, you're going to have nobody to blame but yourself. You need to rethink it. And if you doubt me, brother, fly on down here to Georgia. There's some boys down here with some mean old dogs. You know, they'll be happy to take you on a hog hunt and let you see just how vicious an animal can be when it's cornered. That's pretty much where you got these people backed up into a corner now. Not only that, you better think about 30 million hunters. Because 30 million hunters are watching this right now, going, well, if they can take their guns in Connecticut, what's to stop them from coming to my state and taking my guns? So I'm calling upon all the American rednecks out there. I know who you are. There's plenty of American rednecks everywhere. We've sat back and watched this, and we've let y'all run this country. But it's time for the American rednecks to start speaking out. It's time for us to let you know how we feel. And if you make my day if you send me a message and let me know what you think about this video. Because I'm going to tell you, this ain't sitting too good with me. I'm praying every day that governor in Connecticut, he will reevaluate this situation and think maybe this law is not where we need to go right now. We had thousands upon thousands of people died stopping the same action in Nazi Germany. You know, one just needs to look at D-Day in Normandy. People gave their lives to stop the Nazis. This is a Nazi Gestapo move. It will not be tolerated. Just from the American rednecks I already have online, it will not be tolerated. If y'all feel this way, please share this video, and if you would, send me some feedback on it. And, you know, I respect everybody's opinions out there. Some of them I may not agree with. You may not agree with me. But that's what makes us Americans. We all have our own opinions, and we have a right to speak it, and we have a right to keep and bear arms. And that last time I checked, it said, shall not infringe. This is a big infringement. Y'all have a blessed Sunday. I hope you get out and enjoy what God's given us today. Please, share this video, because some common sense needs to go to Connecticut real quick like. We don't need the bloodshed up there. We don't need the onslaught that's going to come if they try to invoke this. Y'all wake up your neighbors. That's Redneck's thought for Sunday. Y'all have a blessed day.
What do you think of that, JoJo?
Well, I think he's right. But New Jersey, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, It's not just Connecticut. New Jersey has a new bill out that has an outright gun ban on .22 calibers because they started off with the little rule where you couldn't have a magazine that holds more than 7 or 10 bullets, and then some dumb don't know nothing about guns. It's now decided if you have a tube-fed .22 rifle, that's going to have to be illegal too. It's like I have a Henry tube-fed .22 rifle, and it holds 17 .22 bullets. So
right,
tube-fed. That's not semi-automatic. You have to cock the gun every time. Semi-automatic is you just pull the trigger. Tube-fed, you got to cock it and then pull the trigger. So, if you think Obama's going to Connecticut to talk to some students about whatever, it is not a mere coincidence. He's showing up in Connecticut, I think, to kind of help stir up this gun ban. That's what I think.
Well, it says here on Wednesday, March 5th, the president will travel to Connecticut and deliver remarks at the Central Connecticut State University on minimum wage. He's not going to Connecticut for minimum wage. You're right, JoJo. He's going there to show his face. Now, you all have heard of Mike Vanderbilt. He's one of the guys that started the story on the Fast and Furious. Him and 60th Street Irregulars and, of course, Anthony Martin and David Codrea and Cheryl Atkinson, kept the story alive. Otherwise, we wouldn't have even known about Fast and Furious. We've done a lot of research, and I got a lot of documents on that, too. But Anthony Martin, who, has been on our show, he's one of our dear friends, and he's an incredible writer at Gun Rights Examiner. Vanderbilt put out a story the other day, and Anthony brought it to us. I'd like a minute to read this to you, please. All right. Don't Come to Connecticut, There's Cops and Politicians Who Want You Dead, by Anthony Martin. Gun rights activist and blogger Mike Vanderbilt returned home this evening from taking care of some family business, only to discover that friends in Connecticut had left him numerous warnings about traveling to the state. Don't come to Connecticut anytime soon, advised one. There's cops and politicians up here who want you dead. Vanderbilt created a stir just prior to Christmas when he sent empty, high-capacity magazines to a group of politicians and anti-gun journalists who have made it clear they wish to strip citizens of their constitutional rights. He referred to the program as Toys for Totalitarians. Then, this week, Vanderbilt sent a letter to each member of the Connecticut State Legislature, particularly addressing those who voted in favor of the new high restrictive guns, ammo, and magazine laws. As reported Thursday, Vanderbilt's latest effort at getting the legislators to change its mind on its hardline anti-gun stance brought an unnerving response from politicians and anti-gun activists in the state. One, in particular, called for bloodshed and stated in no uncertain terms that any citizen who refused to register their assault weapons and high-capacity magazines would be targeted by state police if those citizens called to report crimes. Police departments in the state will have the capacity to determine whether or not a citizen has registered, and if they have not done so, the officers will show up not to arrest criminals, but to arrest the unregistered citizen who made the call. The fact that these shocking violations of basic constitutional rights have been outed by people such as Vanderbilt hit a raw nerve among law enforcement and elected officials in Connecticut. As one friend told Vanderbilt, Mike, the upper echelon of the Connecticut State Police don't know whether to crap or go blind. This particular contact is himself a member of the Connecticut State Police, who went further to say that this is a PR nightmare, and they, the upper echelon, don't know what to do about it. Citizens around the country can rest assured that the intensity of the confrontation between gun rights activists and tyrannical government will only heat up, and Connecticut is not the only state that will feel the heat. That was by Anthony Martin. Vanderbilt's in trouble. Vanderbilt sent those empty magazines to the Connecticut State Legislature. There's also a video, I'm not going to play it, but there's also a video of a man who's a 25-year veteran of one of the towns in Connecticut's fire department. He went to a meeting, a town hall meeting with the legislators and the governor, and he tore into them. He said he is a normal, average, everyday American citizen. He's owned some of his weapons for decades. And just with the stroke of a pen, he has now become a Class D felon. So he has never done anything wrong. he has given his entire career in service to the state of Connecticut, and now they're making him a criminal. He says, I will not surrender my weapons. And then he went on to say, how do you know that these people have unregistered weapons unless you have been looking at the receipts and going into the gun stores and getting their books? I don't know if he said blue book or black book or whatever book it is that they're in. How do you know those people even bought those weapons?
I don't know.
That you would know that they were unregistered.
Well,
so
allegedly, when you go to, like, Academy and buy a gun and you fill out the form and they run a background check on you, that's allegedly goes through some NSI computer or some kind of computer. But then,
if you had a background check, they know that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so,
but from what I've been told, from what I've been told, now this doesn't mean I'm correct, they run the background check, it goes into some national computer base.
Yeah,
and then they bought back and say, yeah, she's okay. But according to what I've been told, that documentation doesn't tell them what weapon you bought. The form that tells what weapon you bought is supposedly kept at the store you bought it from, and is only supposed to be accessed by the police if that particular gun was involved in a crime.
Exactly.
Now,
remember that big deal they had up in Alaska over that?
Yeah, exactly. And they refused to give the records to the feds because they said, no, you're not showing me that this gun was involved in a crime, so therefore I do not have to give you this information. And I think it's called a black book, but I'm like you, I can't remember. But
yes.
Now that's the way it's supposed to work. But, I don't know if they pull you over and they check your weapon and the registration, if they got some database they can run it through to see if it's stolen or not, find out if it's yours or come back and tell you.
All right, if you have a home invasion or a home break-in, and you call the cops to report that, and the cop comes, how does he know that you have that weapon and that you have not registered it? We better figure that out, too.
Oh, you're talking about a weapon that, like, let's say I go and buy a shotgun from my neighbor down the street, and I don't buy it at a sporting goods store. So this gun sits here. It's not in my name. My neighbor bought it from another neighbor, so who knows whose name it's in?
Somehow they're getting a hold of that data that says you purchased that weapon, and they also are running it against whether or not you registered that weapon. And I don't know how far back they're going.
That's the deal. If I went down the street and bought a 9mm with a 16-round magazine from my neighbor and brought it home, and then there's no record of me buying it.
Right. So, if they got a record that the neighbor owned it, they're going to be looking for it. Anyhow, I think that we better keep an eye on that situation in Connecticut because it's heating up really, really big. And it doesn't just involve Connecticut, ladies and gentlemen. If they can do it to Connecticut, and they're bringing it now to Minnesota, New Jersey, California, and other places, they can take your gun too. I don't want to hear anymore. Oh, they can't do that. It's against the Constitution. Not only can they are.
But one thing we're all forgetting, there's a thing called the Dick Act of 1902 that is supposed to not be able to be repealed, and it says that they cannot take our guns. That's the long and short of it. That's not a quote, but so look up Dick Act of 1902.
Well, the first person who does get their gun confiscated will automatically gain standing because they can then prove harm. So we'll wait for the first one. Hey, Michelle's going to China.
Oh, please, I know. Can somebody take the spark plugs out of her airplane or something?
Yeah, really, pull that coil wire.
Yeah, whatever. How come they can't fly space available on one of those Air Force cargo planes and they sit back there and freeze their butt off?
I don't know. Well, BizPac says
I thought
Washington...
guys in Congress said they were going to defund the vacation. I guess that's just the 10 of them up there that are on our side maybe said that.
Yeah, right. Well, it says, not content with the already setting a record for travels on the taxpayer's credit card in 2013, Michelle Obama will be headed for the Far East for spring break with her 2 daughters and a boatload of Secret Service aides and other publicly paid employees. While Obama heads to the other direction of the globe with a trip to Europe and Saudi Arabia, the First Lady will travel March 19th to the 26th to the Chinese capital of Beijing, as well as Xi'an in central China and Chengdu in the southwest. The spring break trip is being billed as partly diplomatic, with the Obama scheduled to meet with the Chinese First Lady Peng Liyuan, the wife of Chinese President Xi Jinping. But there's no doubt there's going to be a fair amount of sightseeing for the First Lady. In addition to her daughters, Michelle will be accompanied by her mother, Marion Robinson, according to the White House statement. So they're going to say, oh, it's diplomatic, so that you pay for it, not her themselves. We got another problem. Boundless information. It's an NSA tool. This is from The Guardian. Revealed the NSA powerful tool for cataloging global surveillance data, including figures on U.S. collection. The National Security Agency has developed a powerful tool for recording and analyzing where its intelligence comes from, raising questions about its repeated assurances to Congress that it cannot keep track of all the surveillance it performs on American communications. The Guardian has acquired top-secret documents about the NSA data mining tool called Boundless Informant that details and even maps by country the voluminous amount of information it collects from computer and telephone networks. The focus of the internal NSA tool is on counting and categorizing the records of communications known as metadata, rather than the content of email or instant messages. So when Clapper testified in front of Congress, he lied. They do have those capabilities. Also, in Florida, we have an NSA-style warrantless cell phone tracking. This is from Kit Daniels. Florida police used a cell phone tracking device at least 200 times without a warrant because they conspired with the device manufacturer to keep its use a secret, according to the ACLU. The Stingray cell tracking device works by mimicking a real cell phone tower, tricking phones into connecting to it. The Stingray cell tracking device, through a recent motion for public access, the ACLU determined that at least one Florida police department never told judges about its use of the cell phone tracking device known as Stingray because the department signed a non-disclosure agreement with the Stingray's manufacturer to keep its use from being publicly known. The Stingray, also called a cell tower simulator, determines the location of a targeted cell phone by impersonating a cell tower, which tricks the targeted phone and non-targeted cell phones in the same range into transmitting its precise location. When in use, Stingrays sweep up information about innocent people and criminal suspects alike. So they got this thing, and it mimics a tower, and they can hear your conversations, but not just yours, but everybody around you and within the listening area. So, and they're not even having warrants. So they're just collecting all these telephone calls. They're not telling judges they're collecting the phone calls. They're tracking people's cell phones, and they've done it 200 times without a warrant.
Well, there's a lot more without a warrant going on.
Yep. And Obama...
And,
go ahead.
Well, I mean, and the American public just... I mean, it's like what I've said for years. If it's not in their face, if it's not directly affecting them or their family, directly, then they're not worried about it. Or they're like, oh, well, I don't want to know what's going on in the world because I don't want to be depressed. Okay, whatever.
Yeah, I don't want to be depressed either. So, but, sometimes you got to get down in the trenches and find out all this stuff. You can't just go off willy-nilly and not know all the facts around you. Obama's going to distribute 13,000 armored mine-resistant vehicles around the country. Are we expecting a rumble or an invasion, or is he going to turn these police departments against us or something? Why do we need mine-resistant vehicles for 13,000 of them?
I guess when China and Russia invade us, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, they have armed every federal agency to the teeth. They have given military equipment to local police departments. They have been operating on U.S. soil with drills, just like Russia's pulling a drill right now, with drills inside our cities. That's against Posse Comitatus. His federal agencies are a civilian military now He got all kinds of ammunition and portable outposts and hollow points and all kinds of stuff. Well, now, this is from Gateway Pundit. Welcome to Salinas, California. It's a community of only 150,000 people and the owner of a military assault death machine. That's right, a city of less than 250,000 people owns a rolling death machine, complete with machine gun turrets on top. And they're not alone. The Obama administration is looking to distribute 13,000 armored, mine-resistant vehicles to police departments around the country. Are you kidding me? Oh, really? Are we expecting a rumble? But they want to disarm American citizens.
Well, speaking of disarming American citizens, Scott just sent me a link. This was from October the 8th, 2013. Connecticut cops seized 69-year-old's 274 legal guns and charged him with 17 felonies. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'll put it in our group page.
What's the date on it?
November, what did I just say? October 8th, 2013.
Okay.
They charged him with 11 counts of illegal possession of explosives and 6 counts of first-degree reckless endangerment after finding 274 guns in his home in Fairfield, Connecticut. Callahan is a gun... I can't even say that word. He likes guns, okay?
Yes.
Yeah. No, it's more difficult than that. Who collects guns and is also... he's a retired chemist who is an amateur rocketeer. So some of the chemicals found appeared to be for his rocket hobby. So anyway,
all right. So here's a guy who collects guns because it's his hobby, and he's a rocketeer. So of course, I mean, he's going to have fuel. If he had those airplanes or those boats, you still need to gas them up and the remote control stuff. Oh please, the guy's not a threat to society, and like the man who's the fire guy said. With a stroke of a pen, you turned him into a criminal? Leave him alone. Did he shoot anybody? Did he threaten anybody?
No.
Then leave him alone. All right. Another thing that the Supreme Court left on the table was the ruling that blocks landlords from renting to illegals. Well, it says here, the U.S. Supreme Court on Monday let stand 2 appeals courts' decision blocking local ordinances that sought to bar landlords from renting housing to illegal immigrants and prevent employers from hiring workers who lack proper immigration authorization. In both cases, the lower courts ruled that the ordinance are preempted by federal immigration statutes and national policies set by the Obama administration. The cases stem from local measures passed by the city of Hazleton, Pennsylvania, and the city of Farmers Branch, Texas. So they wanted to, they made these 2 places, the Farmers Branch and Hazleton. They wanted to make laws that said that landlords can't rent to illegals and you can't hire illegals. And SCOTUS didn't even take up the case. They just said, well, immigration law trumps whatever it was your problem was. Mm-hmm. And 1 in 3 people say they have been hurt by Obamacare. That's a new Rasmussen report.
Well,
all right,
Harry Reid. Harry Reid says they're all lying. All those people that are complaining are just liars.
33% of the country are liars.
Well, sure they are. That's probably because 33% of whatever.
Yeah, and the rest of them haven't registered yet. So.
Yeah. Speaking of that metadata and the OFA and all that, everybody that signed up for Obamacare, all your information is gone to the OFA metadata, whoever people.
Absolutely, it is.
And you probably got automatically registered to vote if you weren't already registered, so they can vote for you, too.
Mm-hmm.
So
I wanted to tell everybody about all those other documents we got our hands on, but we'll have to wait until Monday. But we have documents detailing discovery in the Sinaloas case and the deals that were made by the Department of Justice with the Sinaloas to not arrest them, impede in their businesses, and up to and including murder they were going to get away with because they were giving information to the DOJ on rival gangs. We'll talk about that next week. JoJo, say goodnight, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Definitely keep your powder dry and watch what's going on. And, who knows what's going to happen. Can't guess. Nobody can guess. Only God knows, and that's the truth. Only He knows. So anyway, y'all have a very good week, and we'll be back next Monday, and hopefully we won't be in the middle of World War III by next week. We shall see.
JoJo. Good night,
yeah,
JoJo.
and wait.
What?
Well, listen, everybody, after the show, I don't know when Scott will get it done, but you can still go to YouTube, go to the search bar, hit Moretti Underground, and go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And then when he gets the show loaded, you'll already be in the system. See y'all next week.
All right. Good night, JoJo. All right, everybody, that's all the time we have for today, and we want to thank everybody, our listeners, everybody who called, all those cool people in the chat room. Thank you. Lynn, Anna, AstroTurf, tell everybody thank you so much. Thank you to our very special guest, Gary Goforth, and as always, thank you to my great co-host, JoJo Norton. Stay tuned to PRN because all week they got great shows. Tomorrow, Denise will be here. Wednesday, the big boss man, Freebird, will be here. So good night, America. We love you, and let's hear a little ZZ Top tonight. Good night, folks.